also made some room. I know I made the generous offer of somebody running an open space. Sadly, nobody took me up on that, but we do have some space today to explore what questions we might still be holding about STC practice. And in particular, we've had one request about reflecting on our last module and the secrets exercise. So we'll say more about that later on. And of course, we're going to recap on the prep that you'll need to do for module 5, which is June the 15th and 16th. So here's the agenda for today, an opportunity in a moment to reconnect in a series of different groups. The practice and experimentation groups, they are timed. Hilary will share the timings with you in terms of the process, and they will include a 15-minute break. And the idea is that you come back into the room having had that break at 11:50, when we'll invite some reflections on our last module, and faculty will engage in a fishbowl conversation, and there'll be room for others to join us in that conversation as well. Then a learning review, and then we will check out for today and close. So that's the timetable. So Neil, do you want to explain what we're going to be doing in the next 35 minutes or so?
Sure. Okay. So John has kindly set up a number of rooms, and you can see the topics on this slide here. So there's a room you can go to if you just want to have an informal chat. If you fancy talking about what you're most looking forward to in the year coming ahead, there's a room for that. Maybe there's something you've been enjoying in lockdown in terms of something on Netflix or a film or something that you've seen, a book that you'd like to share. So if you want to get recommendations or share them, there's a room for that. If you want to talk STC, then of course there's a dedicated room for that. Holiday plans. If you're just not feeling great, we've got our grumpy room, which is just a place where, you know, it's okay not to be okay. So don't feel you've got to go into a room and be all sunshine and optimism if you're just not feeling great, and you'd rather honor that mood. You know, tips for staying sane in lockdown, if you want some, or if you've got good ones to share. So the idea with this is when the rooms are open, you should be able to click on the breakout room icon in the bottom of the screen in Zoom and choose which room you want to go into. So what you should then be able to do is just look at the blue column on the right hand side and click on join a room to go into one, and likewise to come out of a room and go into another one when you want. So we've got about 35 minutes, so feel free to kind of pick a room to go into to start off. If you decide you want to change, swap around, see who you want to connect with and what you want to talk about, and just take it as a nice informal way to arrive in the space here today and spend a bit of time with your colleagues. John, have you launched the rooms? Brilliant. So you'll probably find yourself allocated to a room to start off with, but you should then be able to switch from that room to another. If you have a problem, come back into the main space where we'll be as faculty and we'll help you get into another room. So does anyone have any questions? If not, feel free to jump into your assigned room if you're assigned one, and then rove around and socialize as you would like to.
So I have a question. I'm just looking at the list of breakout rooms. How do I know? Oh, okay, I've got it. Thank you. You're gonna just keep scrolling down for those of you who are a bit challenged as I was.
Yeah, lots of people.
If you're looking for the one space to rant.
Yes, so even at this stage, you probably can join your first choice of room. Just look out for where there's a number in blue next to the name of it and click on join.
So you're staying in, are you, for now, Neil? You staying in the main room?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll join.
Can I have some coaching on decision making?
Make a decision.
I think that's leading.
Really?
Close your eyes and just click on one.
So there's a lot of people in great film, TV series or book.
No.
Coffee and chat. Most
Nobody in Space to Rant. Actually, Vic is on her own in staying sane in lockdown. I will go and join her.
Okie doke.
Neil, I don't know why, but I don't seem to be able to have the option. All I've got is broadcast message to all and close all rooms is my options.
Let me see. So can you see the list of breakout rooms, Davo?
I can see the list of breakout rooms with people in it, but I can't seem to assign myself to any of them.
So if you go up to the first one, coffee and chat,
Yeah.
and just move your cursor across to where it says 4.
Oh, okay.
And you should,
Being an idiot.
there you go.
Thanks.
No worries.
Hang on, is anyone sitting by themselves? Someone might have chosen to go into a room by themselves just so they can sit quietly.
Yes. You should have had a quiet room, space to rant. You and I should go into space to rant, Neil. Just rant at each other.
Yeah. Oh, should we pause the recording?
Yeah, good idea.
Oh. How is everyone?
Good.
I've got 2 book recommendations and a TV program to watch now. So it's really, really lovely to be with you all and
Thank you.
and to connect. Not quite in the way as if we were in the coffee area of Bon Hill House. Remember Bon Hill House? But at least in a little way towards that. So we're going to start to move towards the PEGs, practice and experimentation groups. Shall I share my screen? Well, that's gonna and so here are our 4 groups, and as Moira said earlier, we have just short of 2 hours in this group, so we'll be contracting to take a break within those groups as well, rather than organise the break before we go into the groups. So we've got, as you see, Suzanne and Jenny, Davo and Yapinchak, Tracy and Ian, and Jessica and Inna. And Suzanne and Jenny, you know that we're missing Chris Hudson today. And Davo, we're sadly missing Sally as well. And Claire is still with us. I know, Claire, you were a bit unsure of your time. Are you still here, Claire?
Still here, and I only have to dip away if someone needs me, so hopefully I won't be dipping away at all.
Marvellous. Okay, thank you. Can I just check, are there any other early leavers or anyone not here that anyone could notice? Or are we all set?
Not today, Hilary, but tomorrow I have to leave at about 11:10 at the latest.
Yeah, and you're working with Harriet, aren't you?
I am,
Chris?
yeah.
So, yeah, so you work that out.
Same is true for me. Tomorrow I have an exam an hour before the end, so I think Hungarian time. So 12:15 I have to leave. So I don't know if we will have a peg there.
So that will be tomorrow's peg, Julia.
Yeah.
Which ends at about 11:20, doesn't it?
11:20 it ends.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine then. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Good.
Sorry, Hilary, and I'll have to leave at it's around 12, but I think we will be finished by then with the
Today
peg.
or tomorrow?
Today.
Today. Okay.
Yeah.
Don't think you'll be quite finished. Oh yes, you will. Well, yes. We will be finished.
Okay,
yeah,
great.
Plenary. Yep.
Yeah.
And we'll record the plenary. Okay. Okay. So just a rough indication of timing. So our thought is that we have 2 rounds basically, and it's really up to you, coaches, case holders and co-coaches, in agreeing with your groups, how you use the time. So this is a rough allocation. We think you'll take 15 minutes to, make sure that everyone understands the case as far as possible, but don't overdo it. Make sure that you leave enough time to do the practice, but some opportunity to understand the roles that you're each playing and how you can help the case holder in particular and the co-coach to get the practice they want, the experimentation they want. And then 30 minutes, try and preserve it at least 30 minutes for your team coaching, contract around taking time outs to help your learning, and then a review, appreciation, encouragement, focus review. And if you can, co-coaches and case holders, let the group know what you want feedback on, that can be really helpful to help them look out for what they need to look out for. So that's round 1, and then round 2 is likely to be a bit shorter. You can contract around the times, but we need to be back in the main room at 11:40. And so just while Moira's setting up the breakout rooms, maybe a reminder of what we might be looking out for if we are either role players or observers. You might be looking out for the authority, presence and impact your team coaches are bringing. You may look out for their Centric states. Oh, that's that. Oh, see, you know what, Moira? You put the Centric state slide in your pack and I haven't got it in mine. Never mind. That's fine. Let's do it without. Why don't we stand up? Little revision on Centric states. Limber up. Everyone stand up. Wherever you are, take a deep breath. And if you want a reminder, you might want to pin my picture so that you can just remind yourself of where in the body the different Centric states are. So you remember the boundary rhythm, which is from the spine, and it's for creating separation, creating boundaries, containment, maybe managing time, and your action is this. And you could maybe feel that action. So could everyone go enough or
enough.
Stop? And you can say it quietly. We're out of time. Doesn't have to be loud. Feel that sense of boundary. Creating structure. Creating hold, an opportunity to hold the group firmly and safely. Then the next one is in the gut rhythm. Remember that sense of ah. So this could be, urging people to finish off or hurry up. Come on, you've got 10 more minutes, guys. How are you going to get more from that 10 minutes that you got from the last 20? That hurry up. gut determination. So if you could do this twisting around your stomach, really try and break that thing that you're twisting. So that's that sort of sense of, come on, get on with it. Okay, next one, grief rhythm from the lower diaphragm. So that sense of empathy. The intent is to create empathy. That it sounds really hard. It's tough for you right now, isn't it? I really get where you're coming from here. Your head might be slightly, but it's okay. Next one, going up from the heart, the love rhythm, to include that sense of everyone's welcome. So hands on the heart and open. And maybe you're bringing your eyes into wide ankle empathy as well, that sense of bringing in the wide. You might even bring in the system, empathy for the whole system or the whole organization as you think about and work with this team. Everyone's welcome, everyone's included. And remember that you need your eye contact with everyone as well, everyone on Zoom. So you might be using your eyes around the Zoom screen as well. Okay, heart. The next one is eros, which is that being able to tell a story, invite people in, envision a different way of working. How could we, if we were to bring ourselves into the future, what might people be saying or thinking or seeing or enjoying or savoring? It's that sense here of curiosity and intrigue and wonder. Yeah. And then we're at the eyes, joy. Yes, yes, that's brilliant. We've done it. So if you could all jump for joy. 1, 2, 3. Yes. Yeah. Hooray, hooray, hooray. Marks. Marvelous. Centric states in our pets. And then finally, awe. So this is appreciation. So it's the stillest rhythm. See if the dog can do this one. And you're going, I really, it's from the top of the head, that sense of, wow. But I really, really appreciate the way you did that. That's fantastic. So it's not leaping for joy, but it's, wow. Thank you. Okay. That's a centric state limber up. So how are we doing, Moira? I can't hear you.
Yep, we're there. Ready.
Okay.
Ready,
So everyone ready to go? See you at 22.
12.
1. Is that right?
1.
Yeah.
12. 12.
12, sorry, 20 to 12.
So Hilary, can you remind me which room you're in, which group you're in? Are you with
Suzanne?
Neil?
Avo.
Tracy.
John, I'm not seeing you there.
Oh. I wonder, can I just pick a room?
Who are you with?
I'm with Tracy.
So that's room 3.
Yeah, I can join it.
Okay, I just don't see you on my list.
That's
Actually, I've been
okay.
having problems with it. Okay, so see you later. Room 4. I'm in. You're in 3.
Are we in the
Still
main room?
us? Are we in the same room?
I'm saying we could go on till 10:02.
Oh,
We can carry on, and then those will join us, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. Great.
David, do you
just-
want a third round of practice?
So what? So you said it flowed. A number of you said it flowed nicely. Give me a sense of what you meant by that. When if that means what wasn't happening, if that's easier to explain, then by all means use that. But
they were connecting and building on each other.
Mhm.
So somebody would say something, and that would prompt thinking from somebody else, and they would add, and then, so it was flowing in that sense for me.
so that's the conversation.
Yes, and
It felt quite natural,
It didn't get stuck.
Mm.
Though when I decided to join the conversation as Alexis, I did that on the basis of a small in-group that was part of the team that were focusing on the product side of things. So I expected it would be more flowy because of what connects us as a small in-group. So I was kind of paying attention to that as well. And it did not come up in our conversation, as in there are several in-groups in the broader team.
Yeah.
And it might flow here in the small one, but not in other arrangements.
I didn't use the word flow, but I was feeling something similar. And I think what I picked up on at the beginning was more about your kind of presence and energy and comfort, Davo. And it was, you kind of, I can't remember if you were standing up right at the beginning, but there was something a bit more like, right, okay, now we're going to do this, and we're going to move on to this section, and you just, there was more of a sense of ease in you. And it kind of also makes me think, I was kind of struck by what Andrew said earlier about, you kind of generate a lot of goodwill, and, you can kind of use that. And I think you are someone who has a kind of unusual level of sort of, kind of charisma, I suppose. And you could lose that in getting kind of really stuck in your head with like, oh, I got to take people through this process, and we need to do this thing. And now we're in a workshop and it's all hard. And actually, when you find a way of relaxing and for your natural kind of warmth and charisma and personality to come through, it's like it's like a breath of fresh air. It's like everyone go, oh, right, okay, great. No, now we feel good about what's going on. And you can ask us to do harder things because it doesn't feel so hard. So I'm curious about how you get into that state of flow, and if there's learnings from your athletic and sports background, even kind of physical techniques that help you sort of release energy and anxiety and kind of be game ready, but in a way that's not so much in your head, but more in your body.
So what's coming up for me, there was definitely in that second session, it didn't matter, and you've heard me use this expression, Neil, it didn't matter so much. And I know from a flow, from a sporting point of view, and I've always been one of, again, I'm thinking now in terms of my identity of the past, is this sense of a confidence player. And that being able to kind of get in the flow and is a function of being confident. So, I was never the best guy out of the start gate. It took me to the second or third gate before I kind of went, hey, this, and I'm at home now. And so there's something that I've written down here, confidence, arrow, flow. There's that kind of.
So anyone still remember what happened there? What was the impact of that?
I don't know if I tooted. I think Hillary tooted, but I do remember at one point remarking on a choice point and saying, I can't quite remember what I said, but it was something about, I felt we needed to stick with the emotion or the feeling. That's my vague memory that I can't remember, but I just remember having an overriding feeling that there was a lot coming out and we needed to stick with this. But I know, Hillary, you tooted at one point about hearing other voices. Yeah.
What else?
I mean, one of the things I took out from the whole session was, I think, don't want to speak for the whole faculty, but I think it's fair to say there was a certain amount of apprehension about the fact we knew it was quite a complicated exercise to run online, partly because it's involved using technology that, we had some experience of using. But the problem with technology is you don't know what you don't know, do you? So you can do all the preparation in the world, but something can come up. And it was virtual, and it was with a much bigger group than you might normally use. And my feelings at the end of it were kind of sort of overwhelmingly positive, that I thought it had been an interesting and useful exercise. And I think it cemented sort of two things in my head that you experience in the faculty role or the coach role in that, which is, one is, in a co-coaching situation, the kind of level of trust you have in the people you're working with is really critical. So, the things were unexpected things were happening. I felt very as at ease as I could throughout it, because I completely trust John's ability to handle whatever happens in the moment. And the other thing is the importance of understanding the roles that you're choosing to play, which is kind of a bit more complicated with 4 of us as opposed to when there are 2 of you. But the importance of being really clear about who's leading, who's the second person, or how useful it is or isn't, for what happens if something technically goes wrong. It's just that kind of contracting piece about our roles, which again, I felt largely comfortable with, but it really cemented that in my mind. Sorry, I was getting a bit of feedback then. I don't know if my internet went
we
a bit
could hear all that clearly. Neil, thanks.
I suppose I was thinking about Jessica's question about why did we choose to put it here, and it struck me, would have had a different impact on the community had we done it earlier. And when I thought that, as that thought went through my mind, I was just aware I felt very sad, actually.
Because
I don't know, I just had a sad feeling, thinking, wow, yeah, could things have been different for us? Might there have been different levels of connection? I don't know, I'm fantasizing probably, but yeah, I just felt sad in that moment.
So for me, it was a very powerful learning experience, and I think done a lot of reflecting on it. And I think there were 2 things for me. One was noticing where we are in the system. So when you were saying, we saved it for this point, and one of the things it's made me realise is we're moving into something that we're not going back to, if you see what I mean. Structure and people who want to go quickly into the future. And so it seems to me that in this moment, we're holding quite a lot of distance between people sometimes. And I think the territory is fraught, so somebody's holding on to structure in that cold snap was like the radiator, when we know going out for a walk and getting into the exercise and enjoying the cold air might be good for us. And just, it's cold and we don't know when it's going to get warm, and how do we move from what was to what's becoming. And so for me, one of the things that was really powerful about that module in particular was it felt like this place of, this is where we were and we can't hold that, so we're becoming something else with all of the richness and the challenge of kind of doing that. So for me, it was really powerful and continues to be.
Could I just invite everybody to turn their cameras on? I think Hilary has dipped out because her internet isn't very good. Brian, as you were saying that, I was thinking about the sort of gestalt thing of, some people go with and try and change and some people resist change, and how do you find that middle ground and just be more of what you are? I was just reminded of that thinking about not having to choose one or another somehow.
Wanted to see the gestalt online.
Sorry, was that Claire?
Yeah.
What was the question, Claire?
So sometimes I think online you can't see the whole picture. Just a reflection, really.
Mm. Mm. Mm.
Well, I have 8 minutes left, and I'm just wondering, in terms of how that was as a process, what are our reflections? Was Tanya, how was that for you? Did that meet any of your curiosity, or?
So I think it was just interesting hearing different people's perspectives. And I suppose putting it back together again, the bits that people remembered or didn't remember and what they made of it.
Yeah.
As I said, when I brought it up, and I'm sorry I didn't do it immediately after, I couldn't quite put my finger on it. And I think there is something, and I'm sitting with it, about the demo and the experience. And I think Chris's point about, well, we stepped into the experience and then we had all this stuff that was real, that wasn't demo. And then maybe there was a bit of the now what, so what.
Yeah.
And I suppose I remember thinking at the time, but this is what happens with teams. Some people want to keep going and other people want to stay with what's emerging. And so that was where my question, I think, came from, was like, well, what was going on for you that, and now I remember we did a vote. So
yeah,
I didn't have an expectation of this conversation, but I think it's been quite interesting and useful just to kind of, to hear different bits.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes, it's important that we give the responsibility back to the team that, we've got some conflicting things going on here. What do we want to do? So that we're not responsible. We don't take responsibility for how we spend the time.
I do have a question, if that's okay, about that exercise, because in our pair reflection, we were saying we do remember it feels like quite a heavy exercise to do. This one feels quite heavy now in this reflection, and maybe, so I was curious, actually, does that play out when you've done it with teams? Is it one of those exercises where you can really feel a heaviness, particularly if you don't get to a now what type of, if they don't get to a kind of now what, and I also have a very practical question again, which is like, it strikes me that this kind of exercise would be useful to do many times, not save it up for a particular time.
Mm-hmm.
So I was just curious about that, your experience of that.
I'm not sure.
Go ahead, Moira.
Well, just briefly, I'm not sure how to respond to the heaviness question, because for me there is something about how do we help teams talk about the things that are really important and that are, if they're not addressed, will get in the way of doing good work together. So I don't experience it as heavy. I experience it as aiding connection, but that, I know that's not very helpful. Sorry, John, you go.
No, I was going to say the same thing. I don't necessarily experience it as heaviness. I have experienced it as quite intense sometimes.
Yeah, that's probably a better description, John.
Because whenever stuff is being kept underneath the surface, there's a reason for that. It's usually caution or fear of not being received properly, and then when it comes up, there is a sense of intensity to it. But often once it comes up and moves on, that sense of intensity can change shape as well.
I think that's the important bit then, John, isn't it? For the team, it has to move on, because I think sometimes we were reflecting that some of the reflections in that exercise, it often surfaces maybe what people are unhappy about or dissatisfied with or isn't working. And if you don't feel that you resolve that to a certain level, I can imagine coming out of an exercise like that and as a team member feeling dissatisfied.
Okay.
And also not everything gets resolved in the moment.
Sure.
It's like with one-to-one coaching, a lot, you've got to trust your clients quite likely to think about something that's come up in a session that's important, and the kind of processing and response is going to happen outside of the session. So I think you have to also have quite a light attachment to what's actually going to get, you know, fixed or resolved in that session. And though you may have to come back to it, but stuff has come to the surface, which then has a better chance of being addressed.
One other thing, if I was doing this with a team, I would I would probably contract pretty well beforehand about how we finish the exercise. You know, so talk about the whole thing and explain it to the team. I have done it with one team that sticks in my mind, and you know, how do we finish it well was a question I asked them at this before we even did it. How do we finish it well? You know, how do we make sure that having brought all this stuff up, we're not just left with it? How do we make sure that we finish the exercise well? Can we agree that before we start?
And talking of finishing well, about a third of our cohort have hot-footed it out of here in the last few minutes, and we're in our last 2 minutes. So let's just take a moment to close down the session today. And all I invite you to do just quickly is maybe just take a moment to yourself, maybe sit back slightly in your chair if you're sitting forward and kind of get yourself comfortable, but just an inquiry to yourself about what attitude you need to bring tomorrow to get the most out of the day. Similar day tomorrow in terms of format than we've had today. So what attitude? And I'm asking you really just to go deep and inquire within to your body, all those different levels in which your body exists, both your mind, your emotion, your physicality, your energetic system, you know, your kind of spiritual, if that's a word that resonates with you, but on all levels, what is it? What attitude do you need to bring tomorrow? And see if a word, a thought, an image, or just a feeling comes to you. And in the interests of time, I won't ask you to share, but just to know that you have that intention yourself for tomorrow. Wonderful. Faculty, is there anything we need to say about tomorrow before we finish up today?
More pegs.
More pegs, more fun.
I'd just like to say well done, everybody, today. Just really enjoyed the peg that I was with, and just want to appreciate the work that was done there.
Yeah.
And thank you for kicking off this discussion, Tanya, and the exploration of our work last time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good
See you tomorrow.
Bye. Bye now.
Bye, folks.
Thank you. Bye.
Take care.